Hello everyone, it is me, Two Sheds. Now, a few days ago, I made a video of what I consider to be the top 10 worst Spongebob episodes. I personally really liked making that video, but something I noticed in retrospect, there was only one episode from seasons 1 through 3 on that list, The Great Snail Race, but that didn't really seem right because I think there are a few subpar episodes from seasons 1 through 3 as well. So that's what today is going to be, the top 5 worst episodes of SpongeBob seasons 1 through 3. Now, since The Great Snail Race was in my top 10 worst SpongeBob episodes, I'm omitting that one from this list, but anything else from seasons 1 through 3 is fair game. So let's get started. We're starting us off at number 5 is The Chaperone. This episode is about SpongeBob having to take Pearl to her prom. So I really don't have a lot to say about this episode, to be honest. It's only really here because I think it's kind of boring in a sea of great episodes from the first 3 seasons. So naturally, an episode that I think is boring is bound to be one of the worst. And we have worse episodes further down, but The Chaperone really just doesn't do that much for me as an episode. Like, there's nothing heinously terrible about it, just nothing that's really going to stick with me for a long period of time, to be honest. Number 4 is I'm with Stupid. This episode is about Patrick's parents who thinks he's dumb coming over, and SpongeBob helping by acting even dumber. Now, this episode is pretty infamous for the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob, usually topping these kinds of lists. And while there are a few that I think are worse, I can see why. Patrick, of course, being Patrick, forgets that it's all an act and starts actually treating SpongeBob badly because he actually thinks he's dumb now. And you just feel bad for SpongeBob pretty much the whole time. You can understand why he just runs out after a while. Like, there's very little transition from SpongeBob, having acceptable things being thrown his way to things he actually does anyway, like going out and saying he's ready. This episode is pretty infamous, but there are a few I think are worse overall. Number 3 is Crabby Land. This episode is about Mr. Krabs scamming children. Yeah, even back in the day, this is how far Mr. Krabs was willing to go for some money. And if you missed my worst SpongeBob episodes video, Mr. Krabs is my least favorite of the main cast. And this episode here is a good example for why. He doesn't care that he's scamming children. He just wants the money. And the comeuppance he gets at the end, most of which they don't even show, honestly does not fit what happens. I mean, sure, he loses his money, but that's really... And he has to eat lima beans too, but that's really about all that happens. Mr. Krabs deserves worse than this, in my opinion. So, this episode is not great. But you know what's even worse? Number 2 is Born Again Crabs. This episode is about SpongeBob finding a disgusting old Krabby Patty under the grill, and Mr. Krabs refusing to let the thing go. He wants to sell it immediately, despite the many health hazards that would obviously pose. Anyway, Mr. Krabs ends up eating it, and it goes about as well as you'd expect. Flying Dutchman tries to take his soul, but he promises he'll be nice. And when he only promises because he thinks he's dreaming or something, but when he finds out it's real, he goes back to his old ways, and then he sells SpongeBob's soul, the soul of his best employee, for 62 cents. I thought even Mr. Krabs was above that, but no, I guess not. And to make things worse, he suffers no repercussions for this. If anything, the Flying Dutchman ends up worse off in this episode, having to deal with SpongeBob probably for at least a little while. This episode just does not do a lot right, and it's Mr. Krabs once again at his worst. I really just don't see a lot of value in this episode, to be honest. And number one is Valentine's Day. This episode is about SpongeBob and Sandy trying to make Patrick a Valentine's Day present, but they're unable to get it to him in time, so he just goes crazy. Now, I know Patrick is dumb, but I never really thought of him as crazy, especially like this. Like the ending of this episode is probably the worst part, where Patrick flat out refuses to turn around when it's right there. Add that up with the fact that he doesn't even learn anything from the episode, and you've got an episode I probably won't like at all, and is the worst episode of seasons 1 through 3, not named The Great Snail Race. But as I said, I still truly enjoy SpongeBob, and this will probably be the last worst list I do for SpongeBob, at least for a while, because I kind of want to get to the good stuff. My next video will be my top 10 best SpongeBob episodes of all time, and after that will probably be my top 5 best SpongeBob episodes of seasons 6 to 8. Until then, this is Two Sheds signing off.